Did Dr. Fauci fabricate COVID-19 guidelines out of thin air? As we navigate the labyrinth of information and misinformation, we come across one prominent figure, Dr. Anthony Fauci. This man, if you're not already aware, was the leading voice during the COVID-19 pandemic. His words held significant sway over public health policies, not just in the United States, but globally. His guidelines became the norm, the standard to which we all adhered. The 6 feet rule, the mask mandate, his voice echoed in the hallways of our daily lives. But let's pause for a moment. Imagine, what if these guidelines, these rules that we've integrated into our lives, were based on nothing concrete? What if they were, as some suggest, pulled out of thin air? A chilling thought, isn't it? A game of truth or deception, where the stakes are not just our lives, but our very way of life. But what if these guidelines were based on nothing concrete? Let's delve deeper. Where did the 6 feet rule and mask mandates actually come from? Let's dive into the murky waters of the origins of these now ubiquitous guidelines. The 6 feet social distancing rule and the mask mandates have become an integral part of our lives. But do we know the solid scientific data backing these rules? Or were they, as some claim, merely pulled out of thin air? Let's consider the statements made by Dr. Fauci, a prominent figure in the pandemic's management. It's been suggested that he admitted to improvising these guidelines. Yes, you heard it right, improvising, not deriving from a series of rigorous scientific experiments or studies. Quite a revelation, isn't it? What's even more unnerving is the lack of transparency in these decisions. The rules that have dictated our lives for over a year, changing the way we interact, work, and live, might not have been based on solid scientific data. That's a thought that could give anyone pause. Now, this doesn't mean that masks don't work or social distancing is ineffective. It's about the process through which these guidelines were determined and implemented. It's about the questions that arise when such integral parts of our lives are possibly based on improvisations rather than concrete science. Could it be that these guidelines were mere guesses rather than scientific conclusions? It's a question worth pondering over, don't you think? Let's keep unveiling the layers of this intricate tale. What darker motives could be lurking behind these health guidelines? As we delve deeper into the rabbit hole, we find ourselves confronting a realm filled with conspiracy theories and speculations. Could the pandemic measures have been more than mere health guidelines? Could they have been carefully crafted tools to manipulate public behavior or to benefit certain groups? Consider for a moment the mask mandate. While it was presented as a necessary measure to curb the spread of the virus, some argue that it was also a means to control the masses, a method to condition people to follow orders without question, a way to instill a sense of fear and compliance. Let's move on to the social distancing rule. 6 feet apart. It sounds arbitrary, doesn't it? Some claim it was a tactic to further isolate individuals, to break down social structures and connections. Could this have been a calculated move to foster dependence on the system? And then there's the vaccine rollout. With the rise of vaccine hesitancy fueled by misinformation, the public's trust in science and health professionals has been eroded. Yet, the push for vaccination continues unabated. Is it merely about public health, or are there other interests at play? Could Big Pharma be reaping massive profits from this crisis? Moreover, the economic implications of the pandemic measures cannot be ignored. Small businesses shuttered, unemployment rates skyrocketed, and the economy took a nosedive. Yet some corporations flourished. Was this a deliberate redistribution of wealth, a move to further widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots? Of course, these are all theories, speculations, conjectures, but they make us question, they make us think. They remind us that sometimes what we see on the surface is but a fraction of the entire picture. Were these actions truly for public health, or was there something more sinister at play? How did these alleged fabrications affect everyday people? As communities worldwide grappled with sweeping lockdowns and stringent restrictions, the economic, social, and psychological toll began to mount. The fabric of society, woven tightly with interactions and engagements, started to unravel thread by thread. Take, for instance, the small business sector. With lockdowns in effect, thousands of mom-and-pop shops, the lifeblood of local economies, shuttered permanently. Owners who poured their life savings and dreams into these ventures faced not just financial ruin but a profound sense of loss and despair. The statistics are stark. Nearly 1 in 4 small businesses closed their doors during the initial months of the pandemic, a silent testament to the crushing impact of prolonged closures. On a personal level, the psychological impact was equally devastating. Isolation and the relentless uncertainty of what the future held led to a significant uptick in reported mental health issues. From anxiety and depression to increased substance abuse, the mental health crisis cascaded through communities like a relentless wave. Socially, the fabric of connectivity that binds us was stretched thin. Families and friends, separated by mandates and fear, missed out on life's milestones, births, weddings, even funerals. The elderly, perhaps the most isolated, faced days and nights of solitude, exacerbating feelings of loneliness and abandonment during their most vulnerable years. Educationally, children and young adults experienced disruptions that are likely to ripple through their academic and social development for years to come. The sudden shift to online learning created a chasm between those with access to technology and those without, deepening pre-existing inequalities. Each story, each statistic, is a stark reminder of the profound disruptions wrought by the pandemic response. These aren't just numbers, they are a poignant reflection of missed opportunities, strained relationships, and a lingering sense of what might have been. The real cost of these decisions goes beyond health. It's about people's lives and freedoms. Was the pandemic real or a well-orchestrated plot? This question has been circling around for quite some time, stirring up a brew of theories. Some suggest that COVID-19 was exaggerated or even fabricated as a mechanism of control. Could this be true? Was the virus that kept us behind closed doors more of a phantom than a reality? There's no denying that the pandemic has had profound impacts across the globe. Yet there's a faction that believes the severity of the situation was inflated, manipulated even to control the masses. They argue that the fear of the virus was used as a leash to rein in societies, dictating our lives under the guise of public safety. On the other side of the coin, we have a mountain of scientific data and personal testimonies. Millions of people fell ill, and unfortunately, many didn't survive. Doctors and nurses worked around the clock, risking their lives to save others. This evidence strongly suggests that the virus was indeed real and deadly. So where does this leave us? Caught between theories of deception and the harsh realities of a global crisis, we're left in a haze of uncertainty. The truth seems to be a complex weave of facts, fears, and possible fabrications. As we seek the truth, the line between fact and fiction blurs. What remains crucial is our ability to question, to analyze, and to seek transparency in a world where the truth often hides in plain sight.